Let's see if she's cold enough for a cold start. She was indeed. Hi, I'm Chad, and welcome to another Motovlog. In today's video, we're going to talk about electronics on motorcycles. I'm not going to explain how any electronic system on a motorcycle works to you today, but I am going to talk a little bit about how they impact the riding experience for me personally. Now, I've been riding motorcycles for almost 8.5 years, and only within the last 2 years have I begun to ride motorcycles with sophisticated electronic systems. And up until 3 years ago, I had never even owned a bike with a quick shifter. Now, while I was initially concerned about how the electronic rider aids on motorcycles like my Aprilia Tuono V4 1100 factory would impact the riding experience and how that would impact my skills as a motorcyclist, I have to say overall I absolutely love them, and it's very difficult to imagine life without them now. So I got my first motorcycle at the end of 2013 in the month of December. It was a 2003 Honda CBR 600RR, and it was fuel injected, and that was it. There was no quick shifter, there was no traction control, there was no ABS, fuel injection. But I had that bike for about a year and a half. After that, I got a 2006 Triumph Daytona 675, which, similar situation, had fuel injection, but no quick shifter, no ABS, no blipper, no traction control, nothing fancy. Beautiful bike though, I do miss that thing sometimes. Had that bike for 4 years, 3.5 of which it was operable, and then in May of 2019, I got my 2012 Triumph Daytona 675R that I still have and have converted into a race bike. So that bike has a quick shifter. It's a factory quick shifter. It doesn't have traction control or ABS or a blipper. It didn't even have a slipper clutch until I put one in it a few months ago. So still very analog for the most part, aside from the upshifts, of course. And that's a very good quick shifter. But before I got that bike, I was pretty opposed to electronics, especially for street bikes. So I understood the whole purpose and the pursuit of speed. Electronics in a lot of cases can actually make you a more capable and faster rider, especially in a racing or racetrack scenario. But there's definitely something to be said, in my opinion, about having the skill to operate your own motorcycle yourself. I always took a lot of pride in the fact that I could change my own gears up and down. I didn't need to rely on traction control to exit a corner, although it would have helped me in a couple cases when I crashed. But I spent a lot of time really learning how to ride the motorcycle just as the motorcycle, and I did and still do get some satisfaction out of that. Before I got my 675R, I couldn't imagine having a quick shifter or any other electronic aids, just for fear out of my own pride that it would impact my riding experience and I could no longer say that I did those things myself. But I took the plunge, I went and I test rode the 675R, and I was sold on the quick shifter as soon as I hit a wide open throttle upshift. Just being able to stay pinned, click the shifter, and just have it be done effortlessly and smoothly, and the way that it sounded was incredible. I went and repeated that process many times to make sure that the bike was running well and the clutch wasn't slipping and that the engine wasn't cutting out, but man, every time I just loved it more and more. And then I finally took it on the racetrack for the first time in January of 2020, and the quick shifter was even more sublime there. But before that, I'd learned how to clutchless upshift and had spent a lot of time trying to perfect that technique, as well as clutchless downshifts. And while I still utilized my clutchless downshifting skills, I no longer had to worry about it for an upshift. And that actually allowed me to divert some of my focus back to my brake markers and other aspects of trying to go fast around a track. But outside of that, even riding the bike on the road, it was just more pleasant to be able to cruise and putt around, use the quick shifter. It was simple and easy, and it sounds and feels really cool too, especially when you're using the quick shifter with GP shift, in my opinion. But the quick shifter really broke down my barrier and made me think, motorcycles with electronic rider aids might not be such a bad thing. And then, in March of 2020, I, for the first time, rode a bike with an auto blipper. It was at a KTM demo day, and it was a brand new 2020 Super Duke R. And from the first time I clicked down a gear and it just blipped the throttle, I didn't have to use the clutch, nothing. I just couldn't get over it. I thought it was the coolest thing. I was just accelerating and decelerating just to use the quick shifter and the blipper, just because I thought it was so much fun. Bike also had wheelie control, which with that much power and torque, especially being at a point in my riding experience where I had never operated a motorcycle that was quite that edgy, I found very helpful to have. Not that I was pushing the bike super hard or anything, but that whole experience really opened my eyes to how great motorcycle electronics can be. Started doing more research into them, understanding them, and how they also make you safer in a lot of situations too. And after having that whole experience with the Super Duke, I knew I wanted some kind of newer, modern, naked superbike, or hyper naked. And the Tuono V4 was just the obvious choice for me personally. I've always loved the Aprilias, I love the body styling and design language. This V4 is just the best sounding engine ever produced and put into a motorcycle in my opinion. This and the RS V4. That one does rev a little bit higher, so it does sound a little bit better, but this is still just about as good. But I particularly sought out a bike that was a 2017 or newer because of all the newer electronics that were on it. The corner and ABS system, which very useful on the road, definitely keep you safer, especially in emergency situations. It can actually be helpful on the track as well. It's got the traction control, which has definitely helped me on track in a couple of situations. And then of course the blipper. And when I got my first Tuono V4, not this one, I had an RR before this that I sold after I bought this factory. Once I got that bike, all of my suspicions were confirmed in that the electronics are actually pretty enjoyable. And although they definitely help you out and make things easier for you, I wouldn't say that that takes away from the riding experience. In a lot of ways, I think it actually improves it. I invested a lot of time in learning how to shift up and down on my own, with and without the clutch, with no electronics. And even after investing all that time, I think that having the electronics just kind of makes it that much better. It's just so effortless and really pleasant. I'm a little bit spoiled because I also have a WR250X Supermoto that I can still use to keep up with my own shifting abilities. But even if I didn't have that bike, I really do think that I just like this whole quick shifter blipper situation better. Especially at the racetrack. Makes it so much easier to focus on my lines, my brake markers, any other reference points on the track, being smooth. It just makes the motorcycle easier to ride. And again, while there's definitely some pride that can be taken in riding a bike with your own abilities, at this point in my life, I just want to have a good time and go as fast as I can. And if there are things that are out there that are going to help me do that, why wouldn't I leverage them? And even if I'm just riding on the road like this, I mean, doesn't that sound cool? Never fails to put a smile on my face. But anywho, those are my thoughts on electronic rider aids on motorcycles. I've really come to appreciate them. I can understand if some people are opposed to them or a little bit apprehensive just for the sake of their own skill set that they've developed. I got a lot of respect for those like me that learned how to do this stuff on their own, but at the same time, nothing against anybody that's turned to the electronics first. It definitely makes the riding experience more enjoyable for me in really all situations, and again, something I don't think I could live without now that I've had them. But what do you think about electronic rider aids? Do you have any experience with them? Do you feel similarly to how I felt before I had experienced them? Quick shifters, auto blippers, traction control, ABS, any of it. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I would sincerely appreciate it if you gave me a gentle little click of the like button and consider subscribing for more motorcycling content and discussions such as these. Don't forget to drop that comment below with your thoughts on motorcycle electronic rider aids. Looking forward to having a conversation with you, and I will hope to catch you in the next one. Until then,